Hey, what's going on guys? It's Mark back here on Mark's Aquatics. I thought I'd show you my little hyphensistrus L46 zebra plecos. As you can see there, they're getting a little bit fruity around the around one of the cave entrances there. That's showing off to each other, trying to encourage that that female's trying to get in to lay some more eggs. Now I've got a little bit of good news, guys. Remember I said last time we had in that pot there we had some eggs, and there's been quite a bit of bickering going on between the colony, and some of the males have been trying to get into the other pot, and I think that's what's happened last time. The other males are tending to go in, and because it's not their eggs, trying to remove them, trying to be more dominant, and they're flushing the eggs out, they're finning them out with the tail. You can see that tail action and gesturing going on there inside the pots and just outside the pots. So what I've decided to do is strip the eggs out from that pot, and I was absolutely super surprised when I looked in there, because last time I think we had three, I think originally, out of the last lot we did take out, that they threw out with the tail. This time we've got 10, and I was absolutely over the moon. I couldn't believe it. I took the pot out. I'll go up in a minute and I'll show you what I've done. I thought it's pretty interesting to let you guys watch what's going on here as well at the moment. You can see another smaller one where that one's just gone in. You can see that's one of their babies. That one's about 1 inch long now, already starting to get a little bit dominant, starting to posture away there. Not sure if it's male or female. You can't really tell at this age. They're way too small. I mean, the way you can tell them is obviously with the head, the roundness of the nose, the wideness of the head, the pectoral fins. The edges of the pectoral fins are heavier and heavier bristled on the males than on the females, and there's other different traits which you can pick up, but sometimes they're very, very close and you can't really tell. I mean, the female in here is very, very similar, and some of the odontodes on the side of which are the little spikes on the side of the face, on the cheek, just by the gill there, you'll see on the males that they're longer spines than on the females, and that's another way that you can tell them as well. But I was really, really excited when I looked in the pot. I tell you, I think the wife came in because I shrieked, and she was like, "My God, what's the matter? What's the matter?" I said, "Oh, I think I've got about 9 or 10 little baby zebra plecos come out in this out of the pot here." So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take I have to rearrange a light a minute. So what I'll do is get that done for you, and then when we come back, I can show you all the little babies. Okay. Well guys, there you go. Look at that little gang in there. They're all racing around. I've got an air stone in there as well. A little bit of choil wood with some plant on. But I think there's about 4 or 5 down here. Could be more. There's some on the other side as well. Now at the same time of stripping out these, I also stripped out some tiger plecos as well. There was only 3. I had a young pair. I'll just go this way, you might see one. They got the super bright orange, there you go, yolk sacs at the back there. It'll get a little bit out of focus. It's about the best I'm going to get at that distance, but yeah, you can see that one there. There was only 3. There was a young pair that I've got, and it was their first clutch, so they didn't have many. They may have eaten some, but there was 3 little guys left, and I think there's one in this corner here as well, with another couple of the zebras in this corner. There's another one there as well. I'll try and get you some nicer, closer up footage. There you go. There's a little bit better. We got 4 there. You can start to see the black coloration coming in on the tail, the dorsal fin, and on the head and the nose as well. These things grow absolutely amazingly fast. They really do. And it's going to take probably about another 7 days for them to, there you go, that's a lovely view of some of that nose, some of the nose patination there coming through. Absolutely over the moon. Awesome Christmas present for me. Absolutely amazing. Like I said, I think we had about 4 out last time, but to get 10 out is just amazing. I know they can have up to 15 in a clutch, but these aren't very, very old. They're probably 3 years, maybe just over 3.5 years, so they're just at their sexual maturity, and that's why they're starting to breed for me now, but obviously the older they get, the bigger they get, the bigger clutches of eggs they're going to have. So look at that, absolutely stunning. Like I say, probably another week and we'll start to see some change. So as it goes on, obviously up to around Christmas time, I'm going to try and do a Christmas Day video on these as well, so you can see how much they've grown and come on, which will be nice for you guys to see as they get older. Now what I've done is I've put them in a bigger tank this time because there was so many. I'll just zoom back out. Oh, sorry about that, pressed the wrong button there. Right, there you go, you've got the adults underneath, and this was one of the neon tetra tanks that I bred the neons in, and they're the neons that you can actually see in the background, the little dither fish that I put in there to keep them guys, to keep the zebras a little bit happier, because they tend to keep an eye on them, and when they're out they'll stay out, and it encourages them to feel a bit more safe. But I put them in this little 2.5 gallon tank this time that we bred the, like I said, the neons in, and they're doing really well. Normally I've got a little acrylic pot which I've got somewhere down here. Crash bang. There you go, that's what I normally put them in, with the holes in the base, and I just normally drop that into the water, and that water then goes up into it and self-levels itself. When we had 2 or 3, that's what I tend to use. But with this tank now, I thought it's going to be a lot better. We've got 10 in there, we've got 13 altogether now, with those 3 little king tigers in there as well, which you can see on the left hand side now. But these little guys are so busy. In Brazil, in the lower Xingu River where these guys are found, there's hardly any vegetation in the stream at all, and it's very rocky, different sized boulders, shaped stones, obviously very washed, so they're quite round and smooth. So their little mouths are really designed, like most plecos, to suck to the stones, because where they live it's quite a high flow. So when the parents are breeding into the in these little rocks and nooks and crannies in the rocks, these little guys, when they hatch, they've really got to get something and hang on to something, otherwise they're going to get washed away in the current. So they're sucking away on the glass, and they really do move around. Now these guys will actually feed. It's going to take them about 3 or 4 days, we'll say up to a week now, to get rid of that yolk sac. But before they do, you'll see them starting to feed. They will hover around the floor. I put water worms in there, micro worms, and you'll see them start to eat those just before that egg yolk has been absorbed into the body, and they've nearly got their stripes. You'll see them starting to take food already, because you'll see the droppings in the water, and that's when you know they're eating, when you see the little droppings on the floor. Now there's no snails in here at all, so I'll know it's their droppings and not snails, so I'll know they're feeding and going to the toilet properly, so that's always a good sign. And these little things you've got to look at when you're breeding. Now I remember when I went to my local shop and they had these for sale. They were obviously imported, and they always used to say that that the breeders over there would, if they could, they would send redundant males and not females. So mostly the ones you get were males. So obviously, so you couldn't breed them. So there's more of a demand from these people to stock the UK and different various places with them. So they very rarely gave females out. And as breeders, they know what they're doing. So, but when they were in the shop, when I had a look with one of the chaps up there, we worked out that there was one female amongst them. So I paid quite a bit of money for them, but they've just got all that money back with this little brood here. So that's fantastic. It's unreal, the speed and the growth rate of these fish. It really is. From literally within hours, they seem to get darker and more banded as you watch them. It's absolutely fabulous. I must make a nice little acrylic pot. There you go, there's a nice little shot for you. If I get a nice little acrylic shot, a nice little acrylic pot, I'll get there in a minute, and with black sides, bottom, and just a clear front, we can have some really good, I can get some really good shots and do some really nice photography on these as well, because they're not that well documented. I've seen a few bits online, but that's why I thought I'd do this, so it's a documentation for anyone else who's going to be breeding these. Now I keep this tank at about 29 degrees. I'm not telling you porcupines. There you go. That's my temperature there, 29, but fluctuates between 29 and 30 depending on my door here is open or closed. And I keep this water, pH is around 6.5, 6.6, and the TDS is about 150 in here. Look at that. Mum and Dad and one of the babies. Now some of the other ones, they're right in the back. They live behind the heater, behind the pump over here. At the back behind the sponge filter, there's some babies behind there as well. And I've got, I think, with this guy, with all this new brood now, and taking away the 3 tiger plecs, king tigers that are in there, there's 20. You've got 20 zebra plecs in here now, which is absolutely awesome. And it was, like I said, it was a bit of a childhood dream for me to own these, to finally get them, because when I was younger and I started keeping all the aquatic stuff, different species of fish, got into my tropical fish, it was this fish was the one that was always on the covers of magazines and books that you got, and it was the prized fish. It was the one to have and the one to sort, you know, that was so sought after. And it was just, you know, for me it was just magic. It was a magical fish when I was a kid, and to actually have these now is amazing. And the Iceland, like Kate, is breeding them. You know, it's finally getting around to breed them and having success in breeding them. It's been absolutely phenomenal, and I'll never get tired of seeing eggs in these pots. I really won't. It's something special. Every time you look in there with that little flashlight, just go in there very quick flash in there, and you can see that little clutch of lovely little pearly coloured eggs, and you get that torch out of it as quick as you can, and then look at the clock and think, right, I've got X amount of days now, probably around 5 days before these hatch, and then I can either leave them in there or I can take them out, which is what I've done here. So I'm guaranteed this lot to survive. They're pretty hardy once they're out of that egg case. I'll just go back up the top there and you can see them again. Look at that. They're quite hardy little guys. Busily foraging away. I will probably start selling these off, probably in the middle of the, I don't know, probably around maybe August time next year. I'll probably start selling them when they've got a nice bit of weight to them and they're a half decent size, and maybe I can sex them up then as pairs and sell pairs off together, which is always going to be nice to start some new colonies off in the UK, because I know there's not that many in the UK, and obviously they're still on the banned register, so you can't get them from the wild, which is fantastic. That's why people like me come in handy, because I can breed them and sell them on to you guys, and you can have your own little breeding colony and sell them on and keep them going captive bred that way, which is going to save that wild population from being depleted in the wild. Now I've got no filter system in this as yet. We've got 2.2 gallons in there, which is fine for them at the moment. They're not going to, there's no waste being produced in there whatsoever at the moment, so the oxygen's going to be fine. The air going in there like that is keeping that water nicely circulated, and that'll keep them happy because it's mimicking a nice bit of current for them in there, keeping everything moving so there's no dead spots in the tank anywhere. And then I'm probably going to give this, because the water's being filtered in the tank itself, what I'll probably do is I'll just take out, I'll scoop out a little bit of this water and I'll just replace it with a bit more tank water every couple of days, and that'll keep them nice and happy in there. The filter system I've got on here, I'll just turn on, well you can see it there. You've got that trickle filter there, which I made a while back in the workshop. You can tell there's so much moisture in here, you get that algae stuff, not algae on the brain mark, that mould stuff which isn't too clever, that black mould which starts to grow because it's so humid in here. I have got a window in here, with the winter it's so much moisture and heat in here now, you tend to get it down, but I just tend to wipe it off and get rid of it. Now that filter there, full of that bio-home media that I got from Richard. If you need some bio-home media, give him a call on his website, filterpro.co.uk, I think it is, off the top of my head, and he'll sort you out with some of that. I've got a full cycle in this tank now, with that shower filter running. And some people were saying about the anaerobic bacteria, which is what's colonised this now. You're going to get aerobic and anaerobic bacteria growing deep inside this media as well. As you can see, it's not in full light there, so it's quite dark. Some people say keep it in the dark. Your anaerobic bacteria grows best in dark. I haven't found that to be the case. Obviously inside that stone, inside it's so porous, but it's pitch black inside there, so there's no need for the light. There's no way that the light's going to penetrate deep inside it anyway. So that's where that good anaerobic bacteria is going to start to grow in there and eat all that horrible nitrate away. And then you'll end up with a lovely full cycle, which doesn't mean you get away with your water changes. You can do, not as frequent. You don't need to do them as frequent. Just keep your eye on your tests, and if you see anything just creeping up slightly, that's what I do in this. This one gets regularly, it gets 25% a week anyway, with fresh water and everything going back in, as well as my little top-up system which we made, which you saw me make there, which keeps it all nice and level. And somebody was asking me as well about the TDS. We'll just go back down again and have a look at these little guys while I'm chatting away. Someone was saying about the do I remineralise the water in the tank. Now what I was saying about the auto top-up system, now with all fish tanks, this one isn't covered, so it's going to evaporate quite quickly, and when water evaporates it will leave the trace elements and the minerals behind in the tank, and this is what happens, and your TDS, which is your total dissolved solids, will actually go up. So if it's 150, you've got say 10% of that will drop away, that water drops away. It's only the water that evaporates, okay? The minerals stay behind. And a good way to look at it is if you look at a salty, if you go down onto the beach and you look at an old rock pool and there's no water left in it, but it's just all salt, that's what happens. The water evaporates away, but it leaves all that salt behind. Until that water comes back up again, it'll dissolve those minerals back into the water again. So that's one way of looking at it. If you can, that's one way of putting it, so you guys can see what I'm sort of talking about, if you're not familiar with those kinds of things. Let me try and get you another little view of these chaps. There you go. So that's what happens, and what happens is as it evaporates, that ball cock will drop down 1/4 inch, and maybe that tank will drop down 1/4 inch. The water will evaporate that much, and it will replace that with RO water. Now the RO water has had all the minerals stripped out of it, so there's nothing in it. It's just absolutely pure, clean water. There's nothing else in there at all, and that is going back into the tank. So it's putting that TDS back to 160, where it had raised to 170, 180. It dilutes it then back down to that 150 again. You see, so that's how that RO system works. Now when I do a water change, if it's 160, I've got to remineralise that water then back to 160, and I use Aquadur. There's all different, Salty B I think it's called. There's different types of remineraliser you can buy on the market now from different companies. I use the JBL one, and I'll go in there with my TDS meter, mix up some water, add some of the mineral powder in, stir it up, let it settle, test it, use it very, very, very minimal, because it does put the TDS up quite quickly. There's a nice guide on there which shows you how to do it, and then I'll make it up to 150, and then I'll get it up to the same temperature and pour it back into the tank. But in the meantime, what the ball cock system does is it keeps it at 150. It won't let it creep up. As one drop evaporates, it will replace that one drop, and it keeps it at a steady, static TDS of 150. That's just how I've done it over the years, and it works well for me. Look at that gang of trouble down there, and it's worked well for me, and there's the proof, because these guys are happily breeding away. Lovely little fat little babies there, all full of beans and raring to go. Well, I hope that made a little bit of sense to you, and I explained that well. If you've got any comments to that and you need to know anything like that, drop it in the comment section below, and I'll do my best to help you. Like I say in the other videos, I really do try and get back to everybody that sends me a message, and like I say, we're at 13,000, just over 13,000 subscribers now, which is absolutely amazing. Super happy with that. Looking forward to loads more of you guys subbing up in the new year as well, and making the channel grow. As always, like, share and subscribe. Give me a thumbs up if you think these videos are good, or if they're rubbish, give me a thumbs up as well. Anyway guys, as always, you are all stars. From me and these crazy little guys whizzing around the tank. I'm going to probably put another video out Christmas Day, and I'll give you a little update on all these, on how they're going, how they're growing, and all that good stuff. So from me and the zebras, have a lovely weekend, and I'll speak to you soon. Take care of yourselves. You're all stars. Love you loads, and I'll see you on the next edition of Mark's Aquatics. Bye for now.
Just me and my guitar.